This is quite possibly the strangest patch note we've ever seen in Destiny 2, and it's going to affect the future of the game in a big way. Airborne effectiveness is quite the sore subject to talk about right now, mainly because of the Crucible, but it actually does impact weapons somewhat in PvE content too. You probably don't notice it so much, but you absolutely missed a jump shot recently or a ridiculous no-scope on a Dreg during your last strike. It's recently seen a few adjustments though and will be visible in-game as a weapon stat soon, but why then is this patch note not only the strangest but simultaneously the most curious? It's highly anticipated that the fabled King's Fall raid is returning in Season 18 as the next reprised D1 raid to come to Destiny 2, and if I've timed this video right, Bungie will be announcing it this week if they haven't already. Now that you think about it, it's not really curious at all. That's because there was one exotic that was a staple of loadouts in that raid and many since. It's drifted out of favour due to buffs to other archetypes, in particular linear fusions, but the Whisper of the Worm has recently got some love with a number of buffs of its own, and this airborne effectiveness buff is possibly one of the biggest pointers that is coming back to the meta just in time to tackle the Taken King once again. Bungie have a history of giving weapons strategic buffs over a period of time, pushing them into the meta just in time for a specific season, and Whisper looks to be the next suspect. Going from 9 to 20 airborne effectiveness might not seem like much, but given that stubbing your toe can mean the game registers you as being in air, it'll be the difference between starting your damage during a DPS phase early whilst moving fully into position instead of waiting till you're stationary. Whisper of the Worm still did bits during the King's Fall boss encounter, but it was actually the War Priest and Golgoroth encounters where it shone the brightest, where you would be moving into position behind the relic holder or into the puddle to start a damage phase, and that is where this stat change comes into play. It can still definitely hang with DPS monsters at the moment despite it not being as popular, and even the infamous Whitenail exotic perk arguably got its most balanced update ever in the 30th anniversary pack. Rapidly landing 3 precision hits will refill the magazine, but now it only takes 2 from reserves and pulls 1 from thin air. This means that from a maximum 18 ammo in reserves, you'll get a total of 26 shots with Whisper, and with the Sniper Reserve mod, it'll go up to a total of 34 shots. This makes it perfect for long DPS phases, and with a well placed Divinity bubble in place, there's little chance you'll miss a shot on a tiny War Priest head these days compared to how often you would in Destiny 1. The Whispered Breathing Catalyst also got a buff to its activation time too, reduced from 2.1 seconds to 1.2 seconds, meaning you can get going quicker than ever before. And after its recent damage buff, it hits for 50,000 base damage on a boss, totaling for over 1.7 million damage output with DPS sitting at around 70,000. With a 30% debuff from Divinity, a 25% buff from a Well of Radiance, and if you can time it, a further 25% buff from Font of Might if you're running a subtle subclass, you'll be hitting way over 3.4 million damage from a full 34 round magazine. I don't think there's anything that can compete with that. King's Fall is one of the old style Destiny raids where boss encounters have generally stationary targets for a long period of time. This is where the Whisper is king, and it's about to return. Plus there's nothing more satisfying than the booming echo of a bunch of Whispers going about their business during a DPS phase, and it's one that's going to come back around very soon. One that isn't going anywhere though is this Void 3.0 build. It's just been made better than ever this season. Click here to find out why.